And now we're on. And now we're finally on.
I'm just tripping out for a second because I got a light that's normally not on, but I look darker. I don't know. It's crazy. Whatever. Let's do this.
Yeah, it's up there. We're already
I tell
live.
people to listen on Spotify instead of watch on YouTube anyway. So
I know, right? Take a listen. That way you don't have to watch and see us fumble around. You can just listen to us fumble around. Man, this is one of those days, though, man. The weather's getting to me. And the weather's not necessarily really changing in Jacksonville, but it's going from warm to cool or just warm to hot. It's kind of going up and down. I think I might have gotten caught with somewhat of someone's bug not covering their doggone mouths whenever they're sneezing, coughing, and doing anything else that's nasty. And I'm feeling it, man. I caught the
you got
vapors, as they would call it.
you got to power through it though, man.
Oh,
We got a big weekend coming up. You got to
oh,
power
bro,
through
I'll be there. That part of it, I'll get there in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? With an IV. I'll get there in
it.
a
Let me turn
wheelchair,
this
the
TV
IV.
on.
And there being Tallahassee as Miami's taking on Florida State. Bias and Lil Man, a big man coming down from Chicago area to meet up and watch the game. Florida State, Miami.
Yes, sir.
What used to be the biggest rivalry in the state of Florida, now just a game Miami's probably waiting to get woodshedded on after what's been going on lately. But let's not hope that's not the case. Let's hope there's a good game after all. It's going to be a 3:30 game instead of a primetime game, but nonetheless, Miami, Florida State.
Yes, sir. Chief Osceola and Renegade been on my radar for a long time. Finally making it happen. You know, my son turned 21 last year. He's a Baltimore Ravens fan. So we went to Baltimore for a Ravens game.
Yeah.
And this year we're going to Florida State, Miami. I could have taken him years before, but it's not the same. You know, him being 21, we can go anywhere. So
Yeah.
we're
And get
getting,
the
you
real
know,
enjoyment out of it.
yeah,
He's of
definitely.
age.
Uh, and Baltimore last year was quite an experience. We went to a bar and grill that's walking distance, like a block and a half from the stadium. It was packed. Of course, they had Ravens fans, but there were people in there. They were playing the Bengals, so of course they had Bengals jerseys. But there are people in there with Dolphins jerseys, Steelers jerseys. I was like, why would you wear a team not playing? But whatever. I guess that's those are their teams.
It
But
probably reminded you of being out there in Europe or something. You know how when they go to London and you have every team represented
right,
instead of
right, right.
on the field playing.
Probably. But it's not like I'm going to Florida State wearing my Huskers gear. I'm not gonna wear Nebraska. I'll probably find a little stand, buy a Florida State shirt, and rock it.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a sight out there. You know, Florida State being as hot as they are right now, the number 4 team in the country, a legitimate shot at being in the national championship game, or at least being in the playoffs, because the way they've been playing, it looks like they're going to win the ACC anyhow. So why not? I mean, Florida State does have a damn good team, and they won against Pittsburgh with their player in top. In fact, I think their top player, Keon Coleman, was out this past game, but I think he'll be back for Miami. Either way, a great game still. I've been a Canes fan for as long as I can remember. Back when Vinny Testaverde was there, watching Bernie Kosar win a national championship there. So, I've been with this game for a minute with these Canes and watching them getting blown out by Florida State in some instances. Last year, another example of getting blown out by Florida State. I've seen the ups and downs with Miami, the 31-0 ups and downs they had, which was an up, beating them back in the 80s when Deion Sanders was there. Well, things aren't that way right now.
Wide right.
Wide right, several times wide right. Bobby Bowden thought he had a championship on the line, and he was like, wait a minute. Wait, it didn't go in? So,
Right.
yeah, they bought
Yeah, I
Scott.
remember the one day it looked like it was good all the way until the end. Then it just kept going a little too far right.
Yeah, and I remember those days. Remember, the wide right was such an issue. They thought the missing ingredient for a national championship was their kicker. They bring in Scott Bentley, the number 1 kicker in high school football. I think he was from Colorado, and he was kicking 60-plus yards in high school. He comes there, and they win the national championship, but they were beating teams well enough to where kicking wasn't that big an issue. And they won the national championship.
Come on, man. They won it, but they had some help.
They did have help. No, look.
Phantom clipping never
Against
occurred.
Nebraska.
Called a touchdown back. Floyd fumbled at the 1. Ball rolled into the end zone. They called it a touchdown. Come on, man. That's 14-point swing right there. Huskers
And
would
some
have been
people,
3-time national champions.
and some people would have even argued that Notre Dame was washed in that series when they could have won because they did beat Florida State that year.
They
And
lost
then
to Boston College.
the following week, they lost to Boston College when Pete Mitchell had a game for the ages as a tight end. And he ultimately came to the Jaguars and played for his former college coach, Tom Coughlin, when he got here. But that Notre Dame team was stoked. But I thought that Florida State team was unbeatable that year. I would have put the house on that game against Notre Dame, and they freaking lost. It's very rare I get a feeling that a team should win that decisively because they were that good. Charlie Ward in only his first year at the time, and Ward Dunn. I thought that they would get the job done, and Notre Dame beat them. And in fact, that was Charlie Ward's second year, his senior year, and they lost to Florida State, but got their reprieve, got a chance to play Nebraska, and just got by and won their first national championship.
18-16.
Yeah, it's a tougher game than I expected too.
Bogus personal foul call put him in field goal range. Man, there's so much that went wrong. That was bogus in that game. Anyway, people don't want to hear us talk about.
They don't want to hear it, but that's the reason. But that's one of the reasons why we're going out to Tallahassee, man. It's Florida State, it's Miami, and get a little bit of Florida State and Miami talk in there. A lot's been going on. Hey, we're just having a conversation today, man, because this isn't about some type of show prep. It's not like we have a production meeting anyway. We're having the same conversation we would have.
I didn't even know what time the show was starting today.
And you know what? Neither did I. Seriously, because I'm like, got this little cold trying to come about, trying to put me in the judges.
We had technical difficulties. You couldn't hear me. My mic's connected and it's saying it's not connected. But we got to power through. Come on, let's do this.
Yeah, let's power through, man. A lot going on right now. College football is what we started off with, but there's also NBA and college basketball started off yesterday, or at least for most teams. And that's now in the flow. Kansas, the number one team in the country, blowing out whoever the hell they played, because this is the time of year. It's almost always whoever the hell they played with the top team.
So and, I was flipping through a bunch of games. I saw Purdue was up like 30-some. Duke or North Carolina was up like 30-some. And I switched, and then Michigan State was down. I'm like, whoa, what's going on with Michigan State?
Yeah.
What you up to, Coach Izzo? I don't even know if they won or lost.
They lost. Michigan State did lose.
Did they? Wow. Yeah. So I was just like, man, how are all these teams taking everybody out back, and you guys are struggling on opening night?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Spartans. Usually Izzo gets a lot out of his players. They're not off to a good start, though.
Well, the one thing that's good about college basketball is these teams get a chance to play pretty often, so you can see who probably deserves number one or the opportunity to have number one. And it changes so often. Like last year, it changed like almost every freaking week. You had a new number one. But at least you have enough games to where you can get a better idea for yourself, not even just through the rankings, or whether or not this team deserves to be number one. Ultimately, it works out all the time anyway, because other than the seeding, the teams that deserve to be there are usually going to be there. The top teams that you know and love are typically going to be there, coming from the bigger conferences or even those smaller conferences that you love as well. And that's how you get a St. Pete's to come in there, but of St. Peter's. But now, this year, I'm a little bit more excited, if not a lot more excited, with what Rick Pitino, the point guard whisperer, is going to do at St. John's after leaving Iona last season. He did historical things with Iona, beating Alabama and beating other bigger teams or bigger conferences coming from the Metro Atlantic Conference. You wouldn't think that that was possible, and he was doing a lot of that. People came to him like the Pied Piper, being an icon in New York as he is. He's now at St. John, the home of Lou Conteseca, and we'll see what he can do there as they start their run tonight with him. And he's brought a lot of talented players that transferred in, and the transfer portal certainly is going to help him just as much as it's helped a lot of teams in football.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take very long for Pitino to get St. John's back on the map, so to speak. But you brought up point guards, and one thing I want to mention, Purdue struggled last year, right? They got bounced because their guards sucked. And even though they were up 40, they were getting pressed and turning the ball over. I'm like, you're up 40, getting pressed and turning over the ball? You still haven't corrected your guard issues? That's very disappointing. I was calling for Matt Painter to be fired last year. And if he still doesn't have guards that can break a press, he's got to go, man. That's one of the most basic things. especially in college, it's guards dominate college ball for
Yeah,
the most
yep.
part. You look at teams who are successful in the tournament; they have strong guards, and
That's how St. Peter's was able to run it a couple of years ago.
That's why Purdue got bounced. Their guards were not strong; they were actually weak, and it looks like they're still weak.
And how about the big story, I guess, today, outside of just basketball, but still has to do with basketball? Kansas, the number one team in the country, their head coach, Bill Self, signs that lifetime contract in which he's going to get $13 million this year. A lifetime contract with Kansas. This is kind of reminiscent of what Calipari had done with Kentucky, but now they want him the hell out of there. They're not too big on him anymore. And he's getting paid even more than what Calipari, who was getting paid over $9 million a year for his contract. I believe this contract, 53 or $54 million for 4 years. And obviously, as a lifetime contract, he can renegotiate it pretty much any time once that initial contract is up.
When is it up, though, if he's still alive? It's a
Well,
lifetime contract.
Renegotiate. I guess that first part of this contract, I guess being the 4 years, the 53 million, getting the 13 million this year. And then once that 4 years is up, if they don't renegotiate before that, he can just renegotiate after whatever he's done the previous years. If he gets another championship, he has more leverage, probably gets more money, whatever. But it seems like they're pretty comfortable with him being the coach forever until he just dies on the sideline. But
it could also be they don't want anybody coming in and scooping him, right? Taking him away.
True.
Look what happened with the council in baseball.
If the NFL of the NBA may want to do that, and they can. You can't really intimidate an NBA team that really wants a coach because of the money they have. You got nothing but billionaires that have more than the endowments of most of these colleges out there. But still, I think that's a good move for them. Bill Self has really done some great things there. I mean, he's won a national championship. I've always thought he was a good coach. He was with Illinois first, right? Before he came to Kansas. I thought he was solid there. That's why he got the job. Didn't Darren Williams played with him when he was there, right? I think it
was he the coach back then? I don't remember. That you're talking about the team that lost to Carolina in the finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't remember if he was the coach or not.
But in any event, he's doing what he's doing now, winning the championships. He's doing better than Roy Williams had done, and so he's getting that big money. But college basketball is here. A lot of teams, I'm just looking at a lot of these teams that were playing, Ivy League's teams and then HBCUs playing teams. This is the time of year where you're going to get a lot of the blowouts, but at least in college basketball, you're going to get real opportunities to see good games early because those tournament games in Las Vegas and other places, they're going to be played, and these top teams will end up playing one another, and you'll get to see the young players. I know people are still waiting to see whenever LeBron's son plays, little Bronny plays for USC. I haven't heard too much about what's going on in camp and how he's playing and how he's looking. And I think anybody in their right mind are more concerned about his damn health, which you should be, than him playing basketball. But we'll just have to wait and see. He says he's okay. The family says he's okay. And I think people are still waiting for him, even if it's just a nice little 5-minute spot out there to see what he can do on this level.
Right. And you mentioned the tournaments. The early season tournaments usually show who's going to come out strong. A lot of times some teams may be highly rated. They get bounced and they struggle early. Another team maybe not be rated highly, but they win the tournament. And then they go on a good long stretch and they're in the top 10. I think that's kind of what happened to Purdue last year. But Purdue was not a top 10 team. They were kind of pretenders. But it's always interesting because a lot of times top teams will lose to teams they shouldn't lose to. And is it because it's early in the season or the other team's playing harder? I don't know. But, there's a lot of examples to point to, like when Chaminade beat Ralph Sampson in Virginia. That should never happen. Yeah, that should never happen, but it does.
Yeah, and Gonzaga is another one of those teams that used to sneak up on teams in the past. Now they're the hunted, and now they can't really stay on the top and do what they've done because they were sneaking around doing it. And they hadn't gotten a national championship either. I think their window of opportunity has gone. I think the days of Gonzaga being that team you talked about as a dark horse and now even legitimately a perennial power, those days are over. I don't think that they're going to really get to that point again because I believe that y'all also At one point, I think I heard they were trying to get into the Pac-12, but well, there's no Pac-12, so are they going to try to get into the Big 12 or one of these other conferences? I thought if a team like that had gotten in, you also had to have a football team to complement it because it's a revenue thing. You just can't do it with the small gym and the basketball court in a small conference that you're from, the West Coast Conference, coming to one of these Power 5 conferences and only basketball is bringing in the revenue. You need to have that football team as well.
That's probably why they haven't been scooped up by one of the major conferences. They don't have a football program. So it's going to be difficult for them, with the transfer portal and stuff. Those high profile programs, if they can go pick and choose guys out of the portal to strengthen their teams, can make it difficult on the mid majors.
Now, on the other hand, you look at somebody like Deion Sanders, who now has set that precedence of completely overhauling their roster. And I don't know, they have to bring somebody in with that huge name also if they wanted to do that for their football team that can probably do somewhat of the same, go out and get a bunch of players and try to mesh them together and get some type of success. This team never had a football team that I know of. So if they win one or two games, well, that's more successful than they've ever been on the football field. And they'll have somewhere to set to where they can start from and just take off from there. But they'll need that elite coach that's going to be someone who can go out and get someone. And then that's going to cost a whole bunch of money, which I don't think basketball money.
Who's going to want to go and undertake that task?
I don't know, Bobby Petrino. He's been around, and maybe he probably won't look for the big money and just go to a school like that, and he'll be able to recruit with his inroads and a lot of the recruiting he's done since being a college coach. But either way, college basketball is back, and and to your point about why teams may lose to these lesser teams later on, I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of these top teams do lose players, whereas these little teams that never will have an NBA player, these guys are still playing together until their super senior years, depending on what they did with COVID. They'll be together playing almost like an AAU team together. And they know the system, and then if nothing else at all, they're grown men. And even if you bring in 5 phenoms like the Fab Five was when everybody was 18 and 19 years old, well, if you have a group of players who've played together for 4 years, maybe 5 years, or even 6 years, who are 22 and possibly 23, that's where the competition is going to come from. And that's probably where the upsets come from as well.
That's a good point, but that doesn't go that far back. It definitely wasn't the case for Chaminade in Virginia. You know what I mean?
No, well, it was a different style of basketball. I understand
that's a recent factor. That doesn't go too far back.
No, it doesn't go too far back. But I think now with the transfer portal being exactly what it is, and people are just changing teams and just instantly a team that had no hope is all of a sudden a team that does have hope. I mean, even looking at that St. Peter's team that year that just missed playing Iona because Iona got upset that same year, I think, by Niagara. They were able to slip right in because if they did play Iona, they were going to lose most likely because they lost before and it wasn't even easy. It wasn't even hard. So, but you see them, and then after they went on their run, not only did they lose their coach, everybody leaves, including Doug Eddard, who ends up going to Bryant University in Rhode Island, and now St. Peter's has nothing. You know what I mean? And they just lost yesterday. Actually, they didn't get blown out. They played Seton Hall, and they just barely lost the game. But I'm not surprised because it is in New Jersey, and the way things are now with that transfer portal, well, that's what you get. Sebastian Telfair's old coach Tiny from Lincoln High School is now an assistant on that staff as well. So he's bringing guys in from the New York area to add to that Seton Hall team.
You kind of lost me, man. You talking Iona, St. Peter's, and all that.
Well, Iona only because, for the most part, talking about Iona because of the Rick Pitino factor, what he had done with that program, brought them up to speed, and even beyond that. Now he leaves. He's with St. John's. I just can't wait for it. The game starts at 7 o'clock Eastern time, so we'll get a chance to at least hear about what's going on with St. John's. But that's college basketball. Football was played last night.
That should be interesting.
What should be interesting with St. John's? I just can't wait. I'm in a group with a few St. John's fans. Well, a bunch of St. John's fans all of a sudden. We're watching this, and they're acting like it's Chris Mullin and Patrick Ewing out there. They're waiting for some real action, man. These dudes are looking for something for real. And
man, I kind of hated both those teams. I didn't like Mullen. I didn't like Winnington. Willie Glass was cool, but I didn't care for Patrick and them dudes neither. Reggie Williams, nah.
Those are battles, though, man.
Michael
Those guys had.
Graham. I
Oh,
thought I don't know. I just I didn't mind Coach Thompson. I just didn't like how they played until they started dunking on Phi Slamma Jamma in the finals. I remember Michael Graham had like 3 or 4 dunks, and I'm like, whoa, who's Phi Slamma Jamma here?
now we know. And I tell you another thing when it comes to that St. John Senior, or even just John Thompson. I did a show on another show a while back, and I had a Mount Rushmore of coaches, of college coaches. He made my Mount Rushmore. And I know people can have their own standard of what needs to be on a Mount Rushmore or not. It was my personal Mount Rushmore, but he was there. But Jerry Tarkanian was there as well. You know what I mean? Guess who wasn't there? Yeah, Jerry Tarkanian. Look, I've been a UNLV fan, but it goes beyond that. I look at the nonsense he had to deal with the NCAA for all those years, even going back to Long Beach. Man, it was the way they treated this guy. You're talking about they just, regardless, whatever he did. Now, he did break some rules, but he did that a lot worse later on, not then. And they just stayed on his back all the time, and to the point to where they had a lawsuit against him and won. So at least they got called out for their nonsense and they paid for it. But John Wood is what I didn't have on that list because he did what he was supposed to have done with that kind of talent. He won.
You can't hold that against him, and he had to recruit those players.
You know what?
You had to coach him up, and I mean, you hear the way Kareem spoke about Wood and the way Bill Walton spoke about Wood.
I absolutely understand, and I thought about all of those things, but I decided to leave them off because I felt that some people might be. Man, that's crazy. They wouldn't even validate my list if he's not on there. Now, you can have him on your list, or the people that made their list can have him on their list. I just thought, looking at the circumstances and looking at the time in which he coached, you can only have 4 guys on the Mount Rushmore. And I did have Dean Smith on that Mount Rushmore as well. And, Dean Smith coached at a time in the South when it wasn't stylish to have black players. And he did that, and he hung in there, and he really stood up. So it was still something that he did on the court and the things that he did off of the court, which essentially helped what happened on the court. That's why he made my list, and rightfully so. He's Dean freaking Smith.
To me, I think Wooden and Dean Smith are automatic.
And I thought it would be. I thought he would be. But I had Coach K, I had Tarkanian, I had John Thompson, and I had Dean Smith. Those were my 4 guys.
Yeah, I can't agree with Tarkanian. I can go with Coach K, but I cannot agree with Tarkanian. I can even see John Thompson. He's probably not my 4th. I'd have to give it some thought, but I could see it. But Tarkanian, I can't see it.
Tarkanian had the winning percentage. I mean, he has won national championship. I'm looking still at what the NCAA did to impede.
His team played in the weak conference that he dominated.
He did play.
You have a great winning percentage.
The Big West, the only opposition he really had every year, it seems like it was New Mexico playing in the pit, and only when they went there, But I was still looking at how many times he had decent teams and was always harassed by the NCAA. They just would not leave him alone. Every time he had something going well, they came up with another investigation. Came up with nothing, so they came up with another one. Might have come up with something, so they gave him more reason to keep on going after him. And then he puts together that UNLV team, 5-loss team that did win the national championship back in 90, beats Duke 103-73, still the largest margin of victory in the national championship game. An excellent team. Then the following year, an unbeatable team that ends up losing to Duke. And I still think shenanigans were involved. Being in Vegas.
Right,
because they lost. That's it. That's it.
Was in foul trouble.
Yo, they freaking lost, period. It doesn't have to make sense. It has to be said. Come on, man. Christian Laettner being able to outplay Larry Johnson, who was an absolute monster in college. Not the NBA. He was all right. And then he had the back injury. But in college, Larry Johnson, bro, and that whole freaking team, everybody went in the first round pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I can really think of is Anthony in foul trouble.
Yeah, I just look at him from the toughness standpoint.
The point guard, he was the point guard that ran the show.
Mm-hmm.
And if your maestro's on the bench, things can get tough.
Yeah, well, and things did get tough. But I thought they had enough talent there to be able to handle even Duke at that second time around. But no fret because that was a legitimate Duke team that ended up going back to back themselves after winning that one. So that was a hell of a team. And look at the types of players they had. Grant Hill being the best of all those players. We didn't see another player like Grant Hill until at Duke until we saw Kyrie. Not even Brand was that type of a player. Elton Brand. But anyways, that's
Kyrie got hurt early in the season, so you can't say Kyrie. Is that what he said?
As far as talent goes. As far as
but I'm saying we didn't watch him. He got hurt. We couldn't watch him.
I mean, for the time that he did play, because, well, you know what? I'm able to bridge it a little bit because you get a chance to see him as a high school player or in the AAU area. You know, all of these little things he does, whether it's at the Rucker or going somewhere in New York playing, and even in Jersey, where he's from. Actually, he's from Australia. He's born there. But to see
Kyrie's from Australia?
Yeah, Australia. So he's the greatest Australian player ever. I think he has to be Australian-born player.
Yeah.
So I guess that goes without saying, but it's kind of crazy that he's the guy. Everybody's claiming him like the Taliban. You know, we're making a claim, man. We're going to say this is our guy. But anyways, that's basketball, man. We got and now we talk about the NBA a little bit. We got the NBA going on. I mean, so far, what's your thought? I know I saw somewhat of an article today talking about how Giannis and Dame were supposed to have been lighting it on fire right now. Why hasn't it happened? They're still trying to figure each other out, do you think?
Yeah, they have to be. But I haven't watched any of their games since opening night. Mm-hmm. Are they running pick and roll? If they're not, they should be. They're not?
Not that I've seen. Or for the little bit that I have seen. And
that's probably the problem. Or I don't know, are they trying not to reveal what their plan is for the postseason? You know how early in college football seasons, you know, when number 2 is playing an unranked team, they're not going to show much. They're going to show vanilla defense. They're not going to dig deep into the playbook because they got that game on the horizon. They don't want to show too much. Is that what Milwaukee's doing? I don't know.
Can't be doing that,
everybody's got it. Should expect it. You got one of the best point guards, one of the best big men, run pick and roll. You know, we talked about it before the season. You brought it up. I said, I don't know how you defend that. You if you overplay Lillard, you give Giannis a lane to the basket. If you overplay Giannis, Lillard's gonna splash a 3. Pick your poison.
Well, they were able to take care of the Nets yesterday, so I guess they're a little bit back on track. But it was
barely.
Giannis, exactly. But it was a road game. You know, the NBA does matter when it comes to road games. But I thought with these two on fire, at least being together in Milwaukee, you would think even on the road they'll be able to take care of a Nets team that doesn't have a whole lot. But they were able to just squeak on by, and Giannis just dug what Giannis did at least, still leading the way with 36 points and, you know, getting his rebound, just lighting it up on the boards. And if they can hold serve until they can get their act together as a tandem and then as a team, I mean, I think they'll be okay. But I think just as importantly is the Boston Red Sox, the Boston Celtics losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves yesterday. You know, one of those young teams we were just talking about yesterday. What was it? One of these young teams able to run up and down the court on them, get the old men tired? I don't think that was the case. I think it was just, you know, there's pressure to win, and, you know, these are pros and all that other stuff. I guess that intensity level and a good Minnesota Timberwolves team was able to just trip them up a bit. Hey, no harm, no foul. That just means that there won't be an NBA team going undefeated this year.
Right. I watched the end of that game. Jaylen Brown, he put up a couple bad shots. They kind of helped the T-Wolves out at the end of that game. They could have pulled it out without going into overtime. But in overtime, Ant went off. They had no answer for Ant. He hit a couple of threes, went to the lane, hit a spin around, and he was feeling himself. And why not? Because they couldn't stop him. So once he went on that little run, it was ball game.
And Ant dropping 38 points on their heads, man. So, yeah, he's still there. And I still think that Oklahoma City.
But, man, Jaylen Brown's dunk. Did you see it?
No, I did not see it.
Oh, my gosh. You talk about catching the body. Gobert. Dude, you got to see that dunk. I put it on the page. I was like, you want to see a dead body?
Poison the hood,
bro. Gobert went for it, and Brown was like, not today, big fella.
Oh, man, that's crazy. Hey, you know what? Minnesota's still a formidable team. I still think obviously it's a blip in the road. You know, they're not going to defeat it. No one expected that this year.
Exactly.
But I still think that the type of team they have on paper and the way we've seen that they can play, and especially the points they can put up, and they're already inherently defensive anyways. The offense is a hell of a bonus for them to be able to beat the hell out of you when they can. You know,
Yeah.
they probably can threaten some season long records, you know, like the Warriors or the Bulls. I mean, there's an opportunity there.
Maybe, but Porzingis is going to have to hit his free throws. He missed a bunch of free throws last night. That
Uh-oh.
also contributed to them going into overtime.
See, now typically he doesn't miss free throws like that, but there's going to be times where if it's on him and he's missing them, well, you will get that kind of result. But yeah, that was something
But
else,
I mean,
man.
Tuesday night in the NBA in November, Celtics, I'm sure weren't.
It's hard to
That
keep up
wasn't
to those
the best.
games.
Yeah, that's not. That wasn't the best. The best version of the Boston Celtics last night. But credit to the T-Wolves, they did what they're supposed to.
And that's what I'm saying, because when you look at all these other teams that I'm even talking about, whether it's the Bulls or even the Golden State Warriors, when it comes down to that regular season record or threatening it, you know, they had their Tuesdays too in November. They had their Tuesdays in the beginning of December, but they still found a way to plow through it where they're just that much more talented than everyone else. Well, in this case right here, Boston is much more talented than this Minnesota team too. And it
It
got a
could
better
be.
result.
It could be we jinxed them too. You know, we were talking about how well they've been playing. They didn't need time to have to gel.
They
Uh,
didn't. I mean, they showed that part at least. But now, well, you know what? Maybe they
hey,
took about the fridge and they
you
kind
can
of
put the
turned
blame.
it.
You can put the blame on us.
Hey, you know what? If it's
You
going
would
to
you
hurt
would think
Boston,
they're under. You would think they're undefeated. Hey, let's keep this streak going, guys. Until we lose that, come on, let's go out to. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But maybe not. They're maybe like, we ain't winning 82. Who cares about Tuesday night? I don't know.
And at the end of the day, when it comes down to June, if they win another championship, another Boston Celtics championship, all this isn't going to matter. It would be nice to have that up there if you were one of these people
Right.
competing or contending for one of the better records in NBA history with a championship to show for it, unlike those Golden State Warriors didn't have a championship to show for it. But man, how about the 76ers, man? You know, they started off a little rocky. Here they come. I mean, they're
Right.
on their own winning streak, and they're just whooping teams. How about these scores these days in these games, man? Teams scoring 150, 146, 130. It's like back in the freaking 70s. What's up?
Right. And Embiid, he's on a mission. It looks like um, they don't miss Harden at all right now.
I don't think they missed him. Well, in fact, they were worse off with him last season, it seems. So
Right.
I think they're just glad that he's gone. I think they have to be a
They
little
got
feel
the
relieved.
albatross off. They got
That's
the
exactly what it is.
albatross out of there, right?
That freaking albatross. That's what it was, man. And, you know, I was amping up a little bit in this Orlando Magic team, still being a young team, I think talent-wise, up there with Oklahoma City and, of course, Minnesota. And yesterday, they were up for a while against Luka and Dallas, and they just can't hang on. And this one was in Orlando, but I'm not going to fret with this. This is still a young team. This is still a team that was completely different last year in just the way they played in the early going. They started looking better towards the end of last season. Now, this season, they have the pieces in place to really become somewhat of a threat from what they used to be. And, you know, they hung in there for a little while until they just couldn't. But the one thing about Luka puts up his points, but Luka turns that ball over like he's Russell Westbrook, man. What's up with this guy? Oh, God. The turnovers are crazy.
I don't know. That's your guy. You've been hyping him up for a couple of years,
And
and not that he doesn't deserve the hype.
I'm about
I'm
to
just
say,
saying.
they're nasty.
You probably watch him closer than I do, so you should have the answer, not me.
I mean, but he was turning it over last year. I thought he finally got to a point. Well, he's not turning it over as much this year. Man, we're in the early going. He had like 6 turnovers in the first half. But you know what? In the second half, I think he didn't turn it over at all. So, you know, but they got the win, and that's what was most important. And so, you know, Dallas
Yeah,
continued.
but we got to talk about Jokic, man. That man's a triple double machine.
I'm about to say the
Jamal,
same, man.
I heard
And he
Jamal
doesn't
Murray's
turn it
gonna
over.
miss, right. Jamal Murray's going to miss some time, so he
Yeah.
may even have to step it up some more.
You know what? I wonder if
Yeah,
he's
I don't know.
actually,
And what's he going to do? A quadruple double?
that's what I'm saying, because I wonder if he's actually stepping it up or is he just letting the talent flow? That's it. Because he's still, his idea of stepping it up is still going the same speed, but then the numbers at the end of the night still look different than what they once were. And these are triple doubles he's hitting. So now you get into a point to where step it up now, and he's just going the same speed, playing the same way, just looking like he doesn't want to be out there. But then you have a triple double, probably a quadruple double, and you're like, man, put him on the court, he's trouble. Now he has a quadruple double. The old school.
And I don't know if it's just not things aren't promoted the same way, not so much promoted, but I don't hear about other teams sending video to the league saying, "Oh, watch this play. This guy was hurt on this play, no foul called. Watch this play. This guy was hurt. Hit, no foul called, etc., etc." Why are the Lakers sending film to the league about non-fouls being called, no fouls being called for LeBron and AD? Take your L, man. Just take your L.
Yeah,
You're not special. Wait for that 2-minute report.
Then Miami gave it to him. 108, 107.
Just take your L, wait for the 2-minute report. Then you can see, oh, yeah, he missed a call here, he missed a call here. But you think you're the only team that doesn't get every call? Come on, man.
Man, it's always a bad look when it comes from the Lakers. And LeBron is either one way or another in the middle of it, whether he called for it or his coach called for it, or no matter who called for it, it's going to come back to LeBron.
I don't know who called for it.
It's always going to come back to LeBron anyway.
I'm not saying he called for it or he's behind it, but it was the Lakers.
Yeah, it was the Lakers. And if they're going to do things like that, people are going to automatically assume it was LeBron.
It's not like it's game one of a playoff series, man.
He's trying to activate that early playoff thing going. He's trying to activate the regular season right now, going on the road and losing games. You know, they lost to Orlando the other night, and now they're losing to Miami, so they just can't win in the state of Florida right now in this East Coast swing.
He needs to activate playoff mode early.
Yeah, he needs to go in there. Shoot. Guess we may not be activating playoff mode. Our boy last night, football. We can transition into that. A nice segue. You already know what it's about. It's about that. It's about Zach Wilson. Dropping back.
He deserves it.
Playing his team. Man, there's just no way the Jets can win with this guy at quarterback. He has shown no improvement since he's been in the league, and the wins and losses are showing it. Now, I'm going to actually defend him somewhat. 8 sacks, man. That offensive line is putrid. 8 sacks. I don't think any quarterback, including Lamar Jackson, could play under that kind of duress. And he can get away with it.
Was he holding the ball, or he just wasn't given time?
He's just not getting time. And even, this time when he holds the ball too much, in fact, a lot of times when he does have time, but man, the offensive line didn't do anything to help him. But I've seen him in both situations to where the offensive line does give him the time you think is enough to throw the ball and get rid of it, make a play. And times like yesterday when they were just acting like they were in the backfield too with the running backs. 8 sacks, but the defense gets 5 sacks. But neither team goes over 100 yards rushing. The Jets get more offense. They did well on 4th down. I think they were 3 for 4 on 4th down conversions. Normally, you look at the numbers. You're leading an offense. You have that. You get the time of possession battle. You get 5 sacks, even though you gave up 8 yourself. You would expect a closer game, if anything at all, and they still freaking lose. Unbelievable. I mean,
what was the final?
27-6. Come on, bro.
Yeah,
look, neither quarterback threw a touchdown or pick. Neither quarterback.
I saw Garrett Wilson fumbled though.
Yeah, you had a bunch of problems and issues and mistakes out there, but man, and then there was a meme I posted, or not even a meme, it was freaking something I posted from Troy Aikman when he was talking about it's a bad team with a great defense. And that's exactly what it is. You might as well say a bad offense because the defense is part of the team as well. They're just not out there to run the ball, but they might have gotten a better result if they were. It's just, and then you wonder why Adams didn't want to come to the Jets. He was like, I'm good. Who's going to throw to him? No one. Unbelievable with Zach Wilson, man. I remember when he was drafted, first of all, I didn't want him then. I wanted Mac Jones. And even right now, with Mac Jones being on the hot seat in New England, possibly not being with the team next season, I still think he's doing a better job than what Zach Wilson is doing right now. And I think he could, even behind this line, do a better job than what Zach Wilson
probably has better weapons on his side.
No, I think the Jets got enough weapons. It's just that we don't have quarterbacks.
I'm saying he has more weapons than Mac Jones has.
Oh, yeah, he does. Exactly. So I would rather have Mac Jones here to use the weapons that he does have so he could be much more effective in that offense. Man, I don't think I've seen, and I've been a Jets fan virtually my entire freaking life. I've seen them come and go as far as
Sorry about
quarterbacks
that.
and players and anything else in between. I don't think I've seen a quarterback who has not made the progress. I remember the guy who was in my crosshairs years ago. What was it? Mark Sanchez was in my crosshairs for years. I was like, this guy just isn't good. He's benefited from a great defense. But not even Mark Sanchez, even with the butt fumble, was this bad. Not Mark Sanchez. I think people who know me will be like, are you kidding? Why you say that about Mark Sanchez? Bro, Mark Sanchez is better than Zach Wilson. Never thought I'd say it in my life with a quarterback for the Jets, comparing him to Mark Sanchez. This is that.
That's pretty bad, but I have to defer to you. You're the Jets fan. You watched them both, so
Yeah, I watched him. I watched Mark Sanchez. That guy frustrated me to hell. My wife used to just laugh at how frustrated I would get with Mark Sanchez. And then he has my middle name. I'm like, yo, bro, my name is his middle name. What the hell? It makes it even worse. But Zach Wilson, I just haven't seen anything like that behind center for the Jets in years. At least someone who's supposed to be a savior, someone picked so early in the draft. Even Brown and Nagel was better than that. He was a second rounder that we had as a consolation prize for freaking Brett Favre way back in 1990. Oh,
man, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Brown and freaking Nagel, man. Go figure. Unbelievable. But this is what we ended up with, and the Jets just lost another one. So now we're going into another week, and I know we'll talk about it as time gets closer, but your Chicago Bears are on Thursday Night Football playing against the Panthers.
Who in the NFL thought that was a good idea to put on primetime Thursday night? The only game in town that night. I'm not sure if I even watch it. You talk about bad teams. What are they playing for? I mean, even if the Bears lose to the Panthers, they still have a chance to be 1-2 in the draft. But the Bears get the Panthers pick, so I don't know. The Panthers have to try and win. If they lose, they're just helping the Bears' chances improve for the top pick. But I would say if I'm the defensive coordinator, I try and throw whatever I can at Bajan and hope he throws interceptions.
Well, I'm thinking that from the Bears standpoint, I don't think they have much to worry about because even if they're battling someone like or a team like Carolina for 1 or 2 in the draft lineup, you know that the Carolina Panthers aren't taking a quarterback anyway. They have their number 1 guy. So the Bears
Bears get the Panthers pick.
Yeah, will the Bears get the Panthers pick?
Yeah, from the DJ Moore trade last
year. Oh, okay, bro. So hey, this is good either way.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh man.
But man, it would be the most Bears thing for Bryce Young to go out there and throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and win 27-17 on Thursday night. I swear that would be the most Bears thing.
Man, well, they'll give the opportunity. They're playing in Chicago, though. The weather's getting a little chilly up there.
Bajan, meanwhile, he'll probably be 19 for 30, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. As far as the weather, it's not bad. Maybe 50 degrees.
Wow, now that isn't bad for Chicago standards.
I don't know what it'll be Thursday, but it was cold one day last week, but it warmed up. It was almost 60 on Monday.
Wow.
But at night, when the sun goes down, yeah, it cools off. But it's not getting into the teens or anything like that yet.
Yeah, not enough to affect the outcome or affect players. You know,
it might be 42 degrees or something.
Or players who come from a bunch of different places anywhere, not just in the South, playing for the Carolina Panthers. I mean, Alabama gets pretty chilly. I'm not comparing that to what happens at in Chicago. But talking about football, Chase Young had his bye week, getting a little bit acclimated to his new team in San Francisco. He's saying that he's happy to be in the building of winners, obviously throwing shade at his old team, which are losing in Washington. So no surprise.
Yeah, I'm interested to see his impact. The defense has been struggling the last few weeks, and we talked about it at length last week. They got to get that defense fixed, and they they addressed it, and we'll see what he can do. But if they're not able to put pressure with four now, with Bosa and Young on opposite ends, they're really going to struggle because if they have to blitz with those two guys, um, I don't know, it's not going to bode well. You should be able to get pressure with Bosa and Young on opposite
Oh,
ends.
hey, I'm about to say, come on, man. That's like what they were expecting in Houston when they
Not to
had
mention
David
your boy
Clowney and
Hargrave in
TJ
the
Watt.
middle.
Oh yeah,
And your boy
Hargrave.
Hargrave in the middle.
Yeah, and
And,
Eric
and
Armstead. I mean,
yeah,
they
so
have
they should be able to cover everybody, man. They shouldn't have to blitz ever.
that formidable front, kind of reminiscent of what the Philadelphia Eagles had, led by Reggie White years ago, and Jerome Brown, Clyde Pittman, and Clyde Pittman and what was it, Simmons? They had back then.
Mm, I don't recall.
But the four players, the front four that Philadelphia had with Buddy Ryan just going crazy. I still wondered how he did not win a Super Bowl with just that defense, and you had Randall Cunningham on the offense. But either way,
Fog
yeah,
Bowl.
huh?
The Fog Bowl.
Yeah, I remember that one. Come on now.
Man, I was so mad. I was watching that game, then all of a sudden I couldn't see nothing on TV, man.
Watching that game and couldn't
The
watch that game.
announcers, yeah, the announcers were like, "Wow, we think he's running the ball." I heard a whistle.
Fog Bowl, man. You know, I remember the monsoon they had in Miami one time. I think they played Pittsburgh when they had the monsoon there. Man, you have these things you can't control, like the fog and the weather and all that. But hey, home field advantage matters. It may be detrimental to both teams, home and away. But hey, the 49ers
Yeah,
chased up.
I just think it's funny the Eagles blamed the Fog Bowl for the reason they didn't win that game, as if they were the only ones in the
The only ones
fog.
in the
It's not like
fog.
the Bears. It's not like it cleared up when the Bears had the ball.
It sounded like a boxing excuse. You know, boxing excuses just come out of nowhere, left field. They don't even try to think about what they're saying. They just say it and hope you just don't argue with them about it, regardless of how dumb it sounds. You know, I think that going into this week here, the 49ers are coming here to Jacksonville. So they'll be playing on Sunday in Jacksonville after I get back from Tallahassee to Jacksonville. So that might be an option, but I'll be so tired.
Yeah,
There's so many other
I'll
things to do
probably
as
be
well.
in the air.
I'll try to watch. I'll watch the game on television, but I know it will be packed here in Jacksonville as it's been revitalized with Trevor Lawrence and the success the Jaguars have had of late. And now a big time team coming into Jacksonville, San Francisco. It's going to be amusing to see some of these 49er fans who happen to live in Jacksonville all of a sudden. You know, I don't think I've seen them too much as I've been down here, but now all of a sudden you're going to have a whole bunch of them. I've seen Packer fans, I've seen Jet fans, Giants fans, other teams fans, Steelers fans especially. Not too many
It should,
49ers fans, but I'll see
it should
those.
be a good game, but wouldn't it be crazy if this is Trevor Lawrence's breakout game this week?
Man, if we say that again, maybe it will happen. I mean, we got to be right eventually. He has the talent around him. He has the talent himself.
I already said it's not going to happen. Remember?
They can't do anything special with this team, even though they're 6-2. They can't do anything special with this team unless he really puts the team on his shoulders and gets yards and touchdowns. He's gotten yards, but still one touchdown. And then he gets 216 yards, 2 touchdowns. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like what Russell Wilson did just a couple of weeks ago with 3 touchdowns and less than 120 yards, 130 yards. It just looks good in the touchdown column.
He may have to put his legs to use this weekend.
Who, Trevor Lawrence? You know what?
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, though, he has been using his legs, surprisingly. When you see someone who's 6'6" and they run the ball and they're willing to run the ball, this isn't something they make plays for him to run the ball unprotected. And he gets away with it a lot. So he's a legitimate threat throwing the ball, running the ball the way he does. That's why I'm still wondering, why aren't these opportunities for these huge games coming about? You have Travis Etienne playing like he's playing, so you got to put focus in the backfield to stop him. And then you still have to worry about him on a wheel route or anything else out of the backfield. And then you still got to worry about going man to man. And then Trevor Lawrence eating you for 15 or 20 yards as he's done. And then he still doesn't get those 300-plus yard games. C.J. Stroud is outplaying him right now. And he's legitimately outplaying him.
Playing on Sunday, he outplayed everybody. So
he outplayed the entire league. 5 touchdowns, over 400 yards. Man, come on, rookie of the week. This guy's player of the week. But anyways, yeah, I'm thinking that the Jags have an opportunity. Obviously, I've always looked at a home team when it's a West Coast team making that long journey, even coming off of a bye because they're both doing the same. Both coming off a bye, so they get their rest. I don't know if the 49ers are coming here on Friday instead of Saturday. Most likely they'll do that. A lot of the NFL teams come instead of Saturday, they'll come on Friday if they're one of these West Coast teams and they think the time difference will be somewhat of a factor. They come early. If the Jaguars do the same when they go to the West Coast. So we'll see about that. But, man, college football-wise, man, you still have Jim Harbaugh out there. He's still trying to fight, claw, and kind of – I don't even think he's trying to clear his name. I think he has a plan. And the plan is probably not hang out in Michigan too much longer. But he alleges that Ohio State, Rutgers, and Purdue were stealing signals too. Purdue? Rutgers got better. But Purdue? Come on, man. Maybe that's why Rutgers got better.
You talk about a piece of shit. Just because you're busted, now you're going to start throwing allegations out to other people. Where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Did they have a travel budget for their guys? Come on, man.
Start the investigation.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look.
Nah, it isn't a good look. And I think Jim Harbaugh is good enough with that. He's okay with it. I've seen the way he's acted in the past. He's always been that quirky kind of guy, at least as a coach. And I'm like, man, is he really like this? Well, it looks like he may just be like that. This stuff just rolls right off of him. And if he thinks he has a plan B, he has no reason to really worry anyways. I mean, the embarrassment is there, but so what? Nothing that a big pool
you would
of
think
money
he learned his lesson from the suspension for lying about the infraction, not getting suspended for the infraction. And I'm just saying, you think he played more smartly than he is. They fired the guy who was supposedly doing it. I don't even know if that's a good look. Like you're trying to sever all ties with the guy. Or we had nothing to do with it. But again, lack of institutional control. That guy is under your umbrella. It's your fault. You should have known.
And they always use that. And by the way, Connor Stallion says he resigned. He wasn't fired. Well, you resigned before you were fired. And it's still a bad look. He says he wants to resign because he doesn't want the distraction for the Michigan Wolverines. Bro, it's been a distraction, and it's not getting any better.
Yeah,
now there's going to be a punishment that's going to come out. And, of course, I don't believe it's going to affect this year, but it's going to affect future years. And is this going to be the reason why Jim Harbaugh decides not to stay at Michigan? I know the fans don't want him to leave. I don't think they couldn't care less about how bad it's looking. They're winning. And then the program is saying the right things in front of cameras, but behind closed doors, they got to like the windfall that's going to come in if they go back to another championship game or another playoff with an opportunity at a championship game, in which I believe this year they do have a chance at that championship. But you know what? It depends on what Georgia's doing with their signals and other teams. We don't know. But there's been the rumor that these people checking out this Connor Stallions and others have been going to other games, teams that were likely to go to a playoff game or teams that are just top-tier teams. They've been to those games to check out the signs, and that's why they supposedly have the edge.
I know. I think it's funny what the internet, people on the internet do. There's a video, and it's Jim Harbaugh at the podium, and he's saying, I thought we could do that. I didn't know you couldn't scout teams, send coaches. It's not his voice. He's up there, his lips are moving, and he's saying Harbaugh addresses sign stealing. And he's like, I didn't know we couldn't send scouts to other games. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I'm pretty sure they come to ours. I was like, why would they do this? And people were commenting like it was real. I'm like, dude, first of all, man. If you know who Jim Harbaugh is, if you follow football, you know what his voice sounds like. He did not sound nothing like Jim Harbaugh. And there's people commenting, yeah, I knew he's a piece of shit. He's even admitting it now. He wasn't admitting it. It wasn't him on the video.
Well, the internet is a microcosm of society, so you kind of see where we're heading. When you have people like that making comments on something like that's a completely illegitimate, and they're taking it as gospel. Now, it can go one of a few ways. I think it's one of these things where you actually have somebody who is that dumb, there's another way where there's just somebody who's such a big fan of another school, maybe Ohio State, who wants to believe it so they can have that thing to say on that type of a platform. Or it could just be, I don't know, just other fans, period, of college football that want to stand in the soapbox and be holier than thou and say, yeah, our team doesn't do it. And of course, Northwestern doesn't do it. They're not winning anyway. No one cares.
They do other stuff.
You know what I mean? They do other stuff. And we're about to hear about a bunch of stuff when this investigation's over there. The Big Ten is looking like a dumpster fire in terms of the morality clauses all over the place, from Mel Tucker slinging yogurt to this damn thing here. All of these things going on, bro.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. And, you know, the connotation is that the SEC is run amok. You know, coaches down there do whatever they want to do. They pay their players. But now they don't have to hide paying their players because there's the NIL.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I don't know, man, but shoot. Was it? This is.
People,
I don't think
people need to check their hiring practices.
But I just don't know what the deal is. I just think that Jim Harbaugh, I wouldn't put it past him if he's doing something like that. I know it's been banned in person scouting like that has been banned since 94, 98, somewhere around there. But still, just not even going to watch players. You're watching the sidelines to see familiar signals, and then you probably all get into the room and try to check notes on which signals are bringing on which plays, and then whatever has a common bond in some of these signals, well, you got that down. So when you're in the game and he puts up the signal, well, you know what kind of defense to call or what kind of offense to call, and you can beat it. And these are college kids, so it's not like the NFL where you can have a first and goal and the team can still stop you knowing you're going through the zero hole or try to do a quarterback sneak. In college, well, they're going to get most times in the end zone if it's on the 1 yard line or the one grass blade line.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I don't see anything wrong with it. But because you have to work, you have to put in time, effort, and work to get that information.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's willing to do it, tip your hat to them. Hey, they figured it out. Change your signals from week to week. Then you don't have to worry about it.
Too much work.
But since it is illegal, well, then drop the hammer. But I don't see a problem with it. You know, I'm a baseball guy. If you can steal signs from second base, relay it to the batter, well, that's on the catchers, right? Or that's on the pitcher and catcher. That's why they got pitch coming out. They don't have to give signals. So there goes that.
I think with baseball, it's the technology part of it. If you have somebody in the outfield with a camera and they're able to kind of
I didn't say that. No.
I'm just saying that if the technology is the difference between stealing signals or not. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way, kind of go out of the batter's box like you're fixing your gloves and kind of take a peek, that's one thing. You know, if you got somebody in the outfield or somebody who just happens to be portraying
that's
zooming in, that's flat out cheating, stealing signs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's blatant cheating. But that's not a run on second base, figuring out the sequence and relaying it to the batter.
That's true. That's not. But yeah, baseball has their own set of rules, but football decided they want to get in it as well. And I thought all these things they do in football on the sidelines and with signals and players coming in and out, and even at the line of scrimmage when you're making the dummy calls and your live calls and killing plays, you know, you would think that they would be able to hide it better. But hey, I don't think that's the reason why Michigan has been successul. I mean, is it corresponding with the same time in terms of the time frame?
That's what I asked the other day.
Yeah, you got to figure out when did it start? All right, when did it start? If someone gonna officially come out and tell you it started in 19 or started in 2021, well, Michigan had a pretty good team in 2021 when you got to the playoffs, and now you got it here in 2022. Well, actually 2023. So we're going to find out soon, though. But I think Michigan's really that good, and I think it's good because of the talent on the field and nothing different from what they've done in the past couple of years since they've been a decent team.
Yeah, they've been pretty good.
I think man for man, pretty good.
They got a big game against Penn State Saturday. They have to handle their business there.
Yeah.
Good luck to them, you know, keeping the distractions to a minimum.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about the sign stealing scandal, and you know, I'm sure it permeates its way into the locker room. But they can't worry about that. They have to show up on Saturday and handle business.
Now, I wonder if this falls more on Jim Harbaugh to where the players just say, you know what, we just out there going to play. Or they just rallying behind their coach. Wondering now, is he going to even be here, next season for the ones who are coming back next season? So if that's a distraction, I can see that really affecting them the way they play moving forward in games. Or they could just use this as a rallying call, do it for the Gipper, and get
Or
themselves to a
they
championship game
can,
and probably win it.
if they notice a change in his demeanor, they're like, oh, something's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll have to deal with that.
Well, Jim Harbaugh, you're on the clock. And are you going to Chicago or staying in Michigan? And if you're coming from Michigan, will there be a ring and championship in tow? That's what the question will be if all of that falls into place or out of place for that matter.
Yeah, I
Well,
know
listen,
there's a lot of NFL fans saying, yeah, come to my team. He's
yeah.
coming to Chicago.
And if he goes to Chicago, do you think he'll be a difference maker?
I think so.
For a former quarterback, he
You
knows
always
how to
make
do
me
a
talk
quarterback.
about the Bears, man. Man, the show's over an hour. People don't want to hear me talk about the Bears.
No, I'm just saying from the standpoint of this is Jim Harbaugh, former quarterback. We know what he can do with
Well, yeah,
quarterback.
I think he'll have a positive experience with the Bears. It looks like Poe, if nothing else, he's putting in effort. He's not just standing pat. He's doing things. He's trying to improve the team. Um, but they don't have a coaching staff that can develop a quarterback. Jim Harbaugh was a quarterback, and
Exactly. I think that's the difference.
he's been in the NFL. He can bring people in who can develop a quarterback and offensive players, and hopefully hire guys who don't get fired 3 weeks into the season, 6 weeks into the season. Now the coach is the defensive head coach is defensive coordinator too. And the scout guys, he's the running backs coach now, or whoever it is. I don't even know if they have the running backs coach because he got fired for HR reasons. Hiring practices, man. I'm telling you, hiring practices.
Well, Jim Harbaugh may just be the answer. I remember when he had that almost win against the Steelers years ago and got bounced back, got smacked out down in the end zone, and Pittsburgh ended up going on to the Super Bowl. But anyways, that will be it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode of the Sports Bag Bros podcast. A lot probably going on tonight. We have basketball going. We have more basketball with college basketball, and I'm sure some other things will be happening overnight because they just tend to happen, and we'll be closer to the weekend as well, so we'll be able to talk about those things too. So he's Bias, I'm Trav, and Deuces says we are out.